How's a nickel a minute? That doesn't make sense.
A couple of guys in Japan decided they wanted to have a place where their friends get together and drink and think. And the genius of it is that they settled on this format. It's a really rigorous, unforgiving format. 20 slides, 20 seconds apiece, automatically advanced, so you have no control over it, and no question and answer. So that's the format, and it's true in all 350. You're bound to check and pay the fee. That's all there is to it. You can call and get stuck in the phone line for the rest of your life. You will never get that fee rescinded. Number 8 on the list, the breathalyzer test. You are either over the limit or you are under the limit. Number 7 on the unforgiving format list, the 12-bar blues. Now, a lot of people think that blues are quite a forgiving form of music. You could have 13 bars, you could have 11, but it wouldn't be a 12-bar blues band. It would be 11-bar blues, and that doesn't actually exist unless it's in some very strange kind of form. So, 12 bar blues. Number 6 on the unforgiving list, the 24-hour news cycle. And that's not just the 24-hour aspect of it, that is the unrelenting aspect of it. Number 5 on the unforgiving format list, the height stick at the roller coaster. You either are tall enough or you aren't. Number 4 on the unforgiving format list, the Barbie doll. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute. I mean, you've seen Asian Barbies, you've seen African American Barbies. They all have the same fabulous legs. The shape is always the same. Never change. Number 3, virginity. You are or you aren't. Once again, that's just the way it is. Number 2 on the unforgiving format list, death is not really a format, but you get the idea. There's no coming back except for a very select chosen few. And number 1 on the all-time list, monogamy. Okay, you are or you aren't. Okay, next slide. We have 10 great presenters this evening. This is not the list I'll be presenting in.
So now, instead of making tons of books that get stacked up in the warehouses, we are able to make them as needed on demand. The machinery is pretty familiar to some of you. It's digital printing. It's like what you might see in an office. But what you don't see often is really good, sturdy, perfect binding. That's the hot glue that goes on the spine of the book, makes the standard paperback you see in the store. We found machines to make those, to trim them up, so that we can provide books that we love to people who might also want them. That's a close-up of the glue. It's a little bit hot and dangerous. In fact, mostly we work with sharp blades and not glue. Nevertheless, we've become expert enough that each book we make for somebody who already bought it. It's an economy that we started with no money. And this then has been a formula for making significant publication and circulating books widely without having any investor. That means we use available materials. On the left you see file folder covers. We are right now at 196 College Street, where I will be pouring drinks every day. The word of publication in this new model means making public. Publication is the creation of a public. So we feed you not only the work of literature that means something to us, we try to integrate it into a social life that includes food and drinks. At 196 College Street, Patricia, David, and I are in residence this week to the internet. We really feel there's an equivalence across platforms. Here's our site. It's pretty straightforward. We try to let people know what we're up to each day by posting our chalkboard. And we try to give you access to the different things that are happening worldwide. Because in fact, Publication Studio now has locations in 7 different cities, where friends have picked up the same equipment and started the same work.
And I just thought some stuff were no big deal and didn't have a lot to say. But what I really discovered was to end up with a shot that I really liked, really required a tremendous amount of learning, patience, science, believe it or not, technique, skill, timing, and perseverance. I really started looking at other work.
A house and a farm. That was opportunity and success, but the economy isn't the same now. And I may be talking too quickly, so it's a dramatic pause. But the issues are fairly complex. It can feel like we're trying to pick up the right stick out of a pile. and stick after stick. So last weekend at the Grove across the street, we took the chance to take a creative solution to the problem. We tried to pick the whole pile up at once, basically, and produce some winners. It was called Startup Weekend New Haven, and we brought together developers, designers, and non-technical people to create new businesses. So where did these people come from? This is Evelyn Chua. She came from the same place as Mark Zuckerberg, from the university. Okay, that wasn't supposed to be. From Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Virginia, even Ohio to take part. John was an experienced entrepreneur, but he actually was intending to observe and got so into the weekend that he stuck around the whole time. Other people came to the weekend looking for new skills, pushed 14 teams in the process up, and helped them get a start in their entrepreneurial process. And while you may not have been here this weekend for Startup Weekend,
my father had his shop in the basement of every home he ever lived in. He made telescope mounts and clock drives. Dad's shop was always a dark and somewhat mysterious place, a place that felt somewhat separate from the rest of the house. I remember my father coming upstairs from the shop seeming a little bit different. I didn't understand this change as a child, but now I do. I know while he was in the shop, he gathered himself. He shut out the noise, he created things. This changes people. This helps people function and survive in this non-stop and complex world. Fast forward many years, I, Susan Plenard, a sculptor, have had a great picture, a place one feels free to explore with their hands and their hearts and minds. Of course, after hearing about the shed phenomenon, I immediately started to think about how private spaces people create nurture their inventive pastimes, or
retreat or withdrawal, recess. It's often physically separate from the house, requiring a literal walk down the garden path into this place of otherness, solitude. Absenting yourself from the world to be more present, to be. As one of my relatives says, the shed is your personal kingdom. The New Zealand shed is usually a simple, rustic building. What's important is not how something looks on the outside, but what gets done on the inside. Being grounded, making the most of what you've got, self-survival, our pride in surviving and thriving in isolation. Inside the shed, it's all about working the tools, making things, fixing things, making them straight, making them good. The movement and repetition is ceremonial and ritualistic, allowing for curiosity, creativity, and expansion. My version of the shared space...
I've had to look at licensing. The willingness of promises made, trust in a partnership with intellectual property. And most of what I'm going to talk about today has to do with patents, but we encounter intellectual property all the time. Property is negative space. It's the right to exclude someone from your personal knowledge that you control. In the United States, a person or entity to enter into the negative space that you control. Now, this license consists of an offer and an acceptance and perhaps consideration. You look at the language and you think of a romance, you say, all right.
And ideally it's kind of focused on using technology to better work with the government. We're going to be actually helping to coordinate one of these in Connecticut. It's going to be City Camp, Connecticut. It's going to be coming up in the next couple months. And in this case, one of the things was the city had great data on the school system in a PDF document that no one could access. So someone during the ABC, and the city website was put. So they couldn't handle it. It was a giant PDF document. Fortunately, WNYC was really smart. They had seen all this data they have on the city website. The guy happened to create this great visual map about
proper sounds out into the world. That's from Diderot's encyclopedia too, last furnace. And then, so how do you get all you practice, but how do you practice? You have to practice the right way. Mere repetition doesn't do the trick. We have to be constantly hearing, revising, relearning, listening again, repeating in that way, and aware repetition. Okay, we're going to ride the roller coaster, that's the Chinese language. You're going to all sing this with me, I hope, but I'm going to go through it first. And these are the 4+1 tones of the Mandarin dialect. And you can see in the first graphic representation, that's the first tone, second tone, third tone, fourth tone, maybe fifth tone. The first one is a flat line because it sounds Ma. I hear some people doing it, some not. The third tone actually starts just a little bit below the first tone, and it goes into a valley and comes up like a hook. Ma. And the fourth tone, we're going to go skiing because we start at the top of the hill, a little bit higher than the first pitch, we come down really fast. Ma. There we go. And the fifth tone, or the neutral particle, is just a ma. Just like that. Ma, 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 ma. Ma. Those are the 4 plus 1 tones. Well, why don't we do that again together? Ma, 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 ma. Very good. I know there are some possibilities for improvement, and we're going to ma. So first, ma is a neutral particle we put on the end of the declarative sentence to make it into a question. So you screw up the tone, you screw up the meaning. You don't want to call your mother a horse. You got to wait for that's right. Now, the sound is way out here, or I can imagine it's in here. It's around my nose. So what we do with Mandarin is we imagine the sound in a certain point, and that's where we direct the sound. Nasality. The second technique is the pitch center. When I speak English, I'm speaking around a B flat below middle C, and for Mandarin, I go up about a 7 for you musicians to a B. So you can hear this is where the core of my sound is in English. I sort of go up and down, but basically that's where the center is. But for Mandarin, any good speaker, you're going to have the pitch go up. So from here, you're going to for 35 years, and these are things I really discovered on my own. So when we're doing this, we want to focus on these special techniques because immediately, if someone is speaking Mandarin with an American accent, the first thing I do, for example, I say, okay, let's raise the pitch, and we work on just raising the pitch, singing it. That really helps. So these are the 2 techniques to remember. Ma, 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 ma. If you know someone who speaks Chinese, I'd be glad to help out. We can talk about it, and also.
I'm also using traditional methods and hand tools to sculpt and finish the details of the sculpture. Relationship between the 2 monumental granite blocks. In time, and through this affinity, I feel an enormous sense of freedom in freeing myself from the provincial grip of contemporary rhetoric to consider something noble and enduring regardless of date of origin. By taking the point of view of each, coming to the conclusion.
Like Cafe. Many people think about 4 really key aspects of a new business. People, attractive market opportunity. Amazing to see what's happened in New Haven in the last few years with the rise of bicycle lanes and with some really terrific coffee shops. These are 2 of my favorites, Blue State Coffee, which is an entrepreneurial venture in its own, and Coffee on Audubon. My building is the one on the corner, Audubon and Whitney. A number of events that have taken place at each of them, including startups and companies that are there getting a start in space there with the shared facilities. But there are a lot of other resources in town. These are Hack Haven, which was a hackathon that we did in the spring, a camp logo that Dan likes.
Like 25-year-old school marm. It's very weird. We're laughing, and I am one of those people that can't not laugh when others are laughing. It's like contagious to me. I was like, you bitches, I can't stop laughing. It's so rude.
I mean, it's a pretty amazing event. There's other presenters.
This is Joe Laley and Bear.
Who is this guy and where is he going?
I'm going to Europe.